Guys, it's me, Paige. Welcome back to In the Loop. For today's episode, I asked you guys on Instagram if you could ask a member of Congress any questions, what would you ask them? And you guys sent me some questions, so ask and you shall receive. For today's guest, we have Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett on In the Loop. Question is, did you attend an HBCU?
I did. So I attended Texas Southern University for my first year of law school. And then I transferred to a non-HBCU. But I also have an honorary doctorate from Paul Quinn that is also a HBCU.
Nice. Okay. So we have some HBCU love and alum in the house.
Yes.
Next. Are you affiliated with any Divine Nine organizations?
I am. I was about to say, can't you see? I don't know. It's
well,
usually something. It's usually something. Yes. For the people. There's always stuff that's nearby. So yes, I am a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
All right. Shout out to the Deltas and all of our D9s. Did you know you always wanted to go into Congress?
Absolutely not. I'm still debating whether or not I want to be here. So yeah, no. I don't think that I ever reached that decision. You know, I tell people all the time that me being here is really more so a calling. And I'm like that person that gets called to the ministry and is like, no, I don't want to go. That's me when it comes to politics in general. But I know that while I don't like the politics of it all, I love the people. And so the reason that I'm here is, besides the fact that I truly feel as if this is God's purpose and anointing on my life, is because I really have a genuine affection for change and for really bettering people's lives.
Okay. Next, who is your role model?
I would say, if we're talking about living and present and always around, it's gonna be my mama. I think that it's hard not to have your mom have such great influence on you. My mom is the smartest and strongest person that I probably have ever met. She managed to graduate high school at 16 and was top of her class. Went on, got a full ride to go to Washington University, graduated there in 3 years. So by 19, she was done with undergrad. So I had a little bit of a bar that I had to deal with growing up because she set the bar pretty high. But, you know, that's kind of from a very personal standpoint, just recognizing that I really wouldn't be here without the guidance, the love, the continual love that she has to shower me with, because she's still very present in my life. She just texts me now talking about she dropped something off in my house, child. But I have to say that since I've been in this role, because I could go back and tell you about other kind of she-roles that I try to tap into and really find inspiration within. I have to say, politically right now, Secretary Fudge has always been kind of my fairy godmother, I would say. In the political world. She's phenomenal. She's obviously another member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. But more importantly, she just is like literally auntie, right? Like, and that's what I call her. But Vice President Harris, the relationship that we have is one that I think is special. I don't know how she feel about it. But I admire her tenacity and grit and grace. And, you know, there are those that believe that she's another vice president. And so we've had all these other vice presidents. And so it's all the same. And it couldn't be further from the truth. The attacks because she is a woman, the attacks because she is a person of color, yet her ability to stand up strong and put her pants on every single day and do this job, and not want to throw in the towel is just... it's next level. I experienced a small microcosm of drama being a member of the House, but she has the eyes of the world on her, and she understands what it is to serve in this position at this time, and she takes the hate in stride. It never deters her. And so to see and experience her resilience, and to have her still try to find time to pour into little old me every once in a while, is truly what I imagine it looks like to be the epitome of a Black woman leader. She's made it to the highest position that a Black woman has ever made it to in this country. Yet, for whatever reason, she's not gone off by herself and said, well, I done made it, forget the rest of y'all. She still wants to find time, and does find time, to try to encourage and pour into people like me. So definitely the Vice President.
Nice. Our next question is, what advice would you give to students who are interested in becoming involved in politics or public service?
Yeah. Whew. Prepare yourself, number one, mentally and physically. I would say that if you want to get into politics, what you need to, number one, do is find out why politics. If it's about the title, if it's about the pay, which ain't good, if it's about anything other than service, then you may need to reevaluate. Because every single position you run for should always be centered on service. These are public servant positions. I would also say that if you determine that this is about service for you, that you should make sure that you have your village. Kind of like you rolled up with your village today. Never forget the people that will hold you down no matter what. Because when you end up in the public light, just as quickly as people can love you, they will tear you apart and hate you. And the people that will love you no matter what are the people that are in your village. So there will always be tough days, and you'll always need to have those people that you trust, that you can have a very real conversation with. Because trying to find trustworthy people in politics is like an oxymoron. It's not really where you should look for your people. And so, those are kind of my two main points. And then finally, I would say, I always tell people that think they want to be in office to go volunteer on a campaign. It's a way of, number one, paying it forward. And it's also a way to really learn what it is. It's one thing to govern. It's another thing to run for office. Those are two completely different things. And in my opinion, to be successful, it can't just be about running the popularity contest, because that's what running for office is. It's nothing more than a popularity contest. But service is what it's supposed to be about. And you need to be able to govern. So I would say make sure you volunteer on campaigns. And if you have opportunities to serve on boards, to go and intern in a political office, go do that so you can learn the job, so that you can be ready for service on day one.
Okay. Next is, how do you approach working with colleagues from different political parties to achieve common goals?
Yeah. So in this divided government, it feels almost impossible. Because I don't really know. It's hard if you don't feel like there is a goal, right? So it's like, the goal is supposed to be taking care of people, right? And so, for instance, we're fighting over the Farm Bill right now. And the biggest fight that we're having is over SNAP benefits. And my Republican colleagues want to cut $30 billion in SNAP. And I had to point out to them that rural America uses more SNAP benefits than urban America. So we should be on the same page. I represent urban, you represent rural, and I'm fighting harder for your people. So I don't really know what some of my colleagues have as a goal, because if you're not here to at least try to serve your constituents, I mean, for me, as a U.S. rep, I try to serve all people in the United States. But at a very minimum, you would hope that they would be looking out for the people that put them into office. And they're not. I will say that I struggle more on the House side than I do the Senate side. I actually have truly one of the best Republican senators that I think you can have. It is not Ted Cruz, just to be clear. John Cornyn, and it is because his philosophy is that if it's good for the people of Texas, I just want to do it. And he didn't want me to have to always go find a Democrat. And so he has been a staunch supporter and advocate of some of my legislation around fentanyl and trying to do more than say, oh, it's everybody at the border. It's the Mexicans, y'all. Like he listen, every type of dope is always crossed the border. That's just the bottom line. And the idea that it's just Hispanics is absolutely ridiculous when the numbers show that it's actually more Americans that are bringing the drugs across than anybody else. But as somebody who's done criminal defense work and understands addiction and understands the complexities to trying to actually help people out, I have lots of bills that will hopefully save lives. And my senior senator has been willing to and has been carrying some of those bills for me. So I think that that's what bipartisanship looks like. It looks like people that say, hey, we know we're going to disagree on like the fact that I should have access to whatever I want to do to my body. We can disagree with that. I know where you stand. You know where I stand. But if we both believe that we should save people that are dying in this country from fentanyl overdoses, then we should be able to talk about it. We should be able to work on it. And I will say that that's a space, and I do have a couple of Republicans in the House that I work with, but definitely few and far between.
That's amazing. My next question for you is, what are the biggest challenges you face as a congresswoman, and how do you overcome them?
My biggest challenges is just the times that we're living in, and the fact that I am unapologetically and authentically Black every single day. And I think that that is probably the scariest thing for some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. And it's so scary that they resort to disrespect, which is not anything that I signed up for. And so I stand in my power every single day because I was duly elected. I probably had more people come vote for me than voted to get them into their positions. And I also know that I stand on a solid resume, and that I didn't just on a whim get here, but that I had to work 50 times harder to be able to serve in this body. And so the most difficult part is just the lack of respect around this building sometimes. And it's not a lack of respect because I've somehow shown myself to be a less than worthy lawmaker, but it's just literally because we do have real racists in this body.
My next question, since I know we're running short on time, what do you think the future of our country would look like if Project 2025 were implemented? What could that mean for HBCU students?
Child, now you say this is the last question and we short on time. Project 2025 is quite a voluminous document, a manifesto as I call it. And in short, if you had to equate it to anything, I would equate it to the Purge. It's a document that seeks to fully eradicate any humanity that is left with people that aren't old, white, and male. It goes after immigrants, it goes after Black folk, it goes after women. So it is a real life Handmaid's Tale manifesto because it is all about basing things on Christian principles. I think those are the same Christians that believed in the God that justified slavery, which is not my God whatsoever, and I don't know what Bible they're reading from. But essentially, I believe that the first steps of Project 2025 have already been implemented. From the diversity, equity, and inclusion offices that have been deleted and taken out, people being fired at different schools for having those specific offices, from the fact that we do have this abortion ban or these abortion bans that are going across the country it does seek a national abortion ban. It also seeks to go further than the abortion ban, which we've seen them try to do in the courts thus far, going after things such as our contraception. And so I bring up some of these things that aren't necessarily Black centered because they are Black adjacent. Because we know that in this country, the maternal mortality rate for Black women has always been abysmal before we lost our access to the healthcare that we need. It is only worse. And that's not even a money thing, because we saw, I think it was Venus Williams, who went through what she went through when she was trying to give birth. And so it definitely is this radical Christo-fascist situation. Department of Education would then be consolidated and done away with under the powers of the presidency. Department of Justice would not then be independent. They're arguing that it's not independent now. It is, because chances are if the president was the one who decided who gets prosecuted, he probably wouldn't have prosecuted his son. But these guys want to argue that it is a full consolidation of power within the presidency. We know that we just had the Supreme Court decision that came out that basically wants to decide that Trump would be a king. And so it is, as far as I'm concerned, the first steps of Project 2025 are already underway. The full execution of it would look like getting rid of career public servants and civil servants. My mom has worked for the federal government the vast majority of my life. And I know a lot of Black folk that have had, I remember growing up when my mama kept saying, you need to get you a good government job. Like, that was her whole thing. And I was like, no, I don't want to. And here I am. But it looks like the investments that this administration made to the tune of, I think we're up to 16 or 17 billion dollars, excuse me, in HBCUs, that would not be a thing whatsoever. And that is a record amount of money. So investments in people of color, we see the Fearless Fund, who was all about making sure that Black female-owned businesses could have capital that they needed, because Black women are the most underinvested people in this country. Whether we're talking about politics, whether we're talking about business, whatever we're talking about, we don't get the same level of investment as anybody else. And so now they're saying you can't do that. This is as a result of extrapolating from the affirmative action decision, where they're saying, hey, Black folk, we don't want you in our schools. So, what we're seeing is a rollback to the 50s right now. And so my question is, are we going to rise up like our ancestors did and fight back to make sure that those that died, those that bled, that they didn't die or bleed for no reason, but we are here to protect what they did on behalf of us that they never met. They never knew, Martin Luther King never knew there would be a Jasmine Crockett, but he fought to make sure that there could be a Jasmine Crockett at the table. So I think it's our obligation to honor what they did and decide that we're going to fight back, because we have more tools than they ever had, and make sure that we protect ourselves and we protect this country. Because sadly enough, Black people built this country, and Black people have continuously been saving this country, even though we still fail to get the respect that we deserve.
Yes. My last question is, what advice do you have for HBCU students and new voters?
Yeah, so my advice is just to do research. We have some numbers on who gets what information from where and how they decide to vote. People that get their information from social media, which can be laced with so much misinformation and disinformation, they tend to skew the other way. And so I just want people to do their research, and research doesn't necessarily mean going on TikTok. Not saying TikTok doesn't have anything out there that's, of value, but let's get to an actual website. Let's get to, say, the website of some members of Congress. Let's look to see what we have coming off the House floor, and research some of the videos and some of the harsh language that is used in some of these committees. Let's get on C-SPAN. Let's get rid of the filters, right? Because you just get the actual information. So I would say research. And also, I'll say that don't ever let anybody diminish your power. The power has always belonged to the people, and they have somehow convinced people that they are powerless. But the reality is that they wouldn't be fighting so hard to make sure that we can't access the ballot box if they didn't recognize our power. So I think that you need to get up and flex your power in every election, not just the presidential, because from your school board to your state elected officials that are deciding whether or not you have abortion access, whether or not your schools are going to be able to teach history and so forth. We need to care about every election and vote.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Crockett.
You're welcome.